Hello everyone. Some of you will have already seen me a moment ago. My name is Sarah. I am an editor at Farshall Books, and I think I have the best job in the world because I get to edit lots of wonderful authors, including the amazing Jenny McLachlan, who will be here in just a second to talk about her brilliant new book, Stink, which she not only wrote but illustrated as well. You'll also probably know her from her best-selling Land of Raw series, but we're really excited to be here, and thank you all so much for joining us. There's so many of you here. I can't see any of you, but I can see all the things you're typing in the chat coming up at the side. There's so many schools and are here. So thank you so much for joining us, and we're really pleased to be here and looking forward to getting started on the event in just a moment. Just a little reminder to have your questions ready for Jenny, because there'll be lots of time at the end for Jenny to answer your questions. So if you type them in the chat as you go along, I'll just make a little note of them, and we'll try and get through as many as we can before the end of the session. That would be great, and we're really looking forward to hearing what questions you have to ask. So without further ado, I think I'll introduce the woman of the moment, the one who you're all here to see, which is the wonderful Jenny. Are you there, Jenny? By the magic comparison. Ta-da! There you
Hi,
are.
everybody. Hello. Oh, I want to name all the schools.
I know.
I mustn't start.
I know that if you start listing all the schools and the classes, then you'll never stop. Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for being here today and for joining us. We're really excited to talk all about this incredible Stink. I think I'll probably switch off and stop chatting in a moment because everyone wants to hear from you. No one wants to hear any more from me. So I will be here. But like I said, everyone, you write down your questions in the chat, and then we will get through as many as we can at the end of the session. So over to you, Jenny, and enjoy.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my kitchen. You might think I should have had this in a more professional location, but this is where I write all my books and draw all my pictures. It's where I wrote the Land of Raw series. This is where it all happened. It's where I wrote Dead Good Detectives, and more recently, it's where I wrote Stink. It's not usually as tidy as this. I've had to hide everything. You don't want to see what's in my sink, but I did it all for you, and I'm so happy you've joined me because I'm pretty excited about this book, because it's actually a dream come true for me. When I was I'm running away from myself. I mustn't tell you about that yet. Okay, I think it's sometimes fun to know what's coming up. I'm going to tell you, we're going to do a quiz to find out if you're ready to enter the world of Stink. We're going to have a draw along. Stink has got a message for you and a challenge. I'm going to read a little bit of the book to you. Hopefully I'm going to answer all your questions. I've got lots of things to show you. But before we begin, let's find out if you're ready to meet Stink, because it's even written on the front, she is the worst fairy ever. So I think we need to do a little quiz. I've got a few questions. These are all things that happen in the book to the main character who tells the story, Danny, here. So let's see what you would think if these things happen to you. I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm sorry about this, teachers. I used to be a teacher. I would be sighing inside if I heard someone say this. We're going to do a stand-up, sit-down quiz. Now, listen, if your teacher says, no way, you've just eaten loads of lunch, I don't want you standing up and sitting down. You can put your hand up or your hand down or do jazz hands. Or you can stand up for yes, stay sitting for no, and you can bob for you're not sure. Okay, that's really good for your thighs. So my first question, in Stink at one point discovers this chocolate fountain. Okay, at the moment there's a troll in it, and she decides she's a fairy and she thinks, I'm going to swim in that chocolate fountain. So here's a picture of Stink having a swim in melted chocolate. My first question to you, if you got the chance, would you swim in melted chocolate? Stand up, sit down, or bob in the middle. Okay. Right. Had a chance to answer? Everyone sit down or put your hands down. My next question. Stink can do magic. She's a magical fairy. And one of her spells is the ability to change the colour of things. But unfortunately, she never knows what colour things will change into. That's why there's a rainbow fox on the back. She's changed its colour. Now, if I said to you, Stink will change the colour of your hair, but you don't know what colour it will become, would you let Stink change the colour of your hair? Stand up, sit down, bob in the middle. I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm working my core. The reason I'm not sure is, it would depend where I was going that afternoon. If I was going to pick my children up from school, I'm not sure I'd want stripy hair, for example. They'd quite like it. My last question to you is, if this fairy door appeared in your classroom one day, you got to school and your teacher said, oh, look what came overnight. Now, I'm going to tell you that something will definitely come out from behind that door if you open it, but you won't know what it is. Would you open the door? That's my last question. And I'm 100% standing up for this. I definitely would. Would you? Okay. Now, the good news is we're all going to go to visit Stink World. You've all passed, we're all in. You're all absolutely irresponsible enough to read about Stink's adventures. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you very quickly how I ended up doing this. Now, maybe you think, Jenny, you were probably amazing at writing when you were at school. Well, no, I wasn't. In fact, I was one of the slowest writers in my class. I found spelling really difficult. I found punctuation really difficult. And to prove it, I've got something I wrote when I was 11, the same age as Danny, the main character in the book. It's called The Storm. Don't worry, I'm not reading all of it. It was the evening of the 8th of September on the luxury cruiser Siem. The ladies were in their evening dresses and the men had on suits with bow ties. The children were trying to sleep, but it was very hard because the boat was rocking to and fro as if a storm was coming on. Spoiler alert, it was coming on, and look what happens. I used to love drawing pictures. This is always my favorite bit about writing. Not only is there a storm and the ship sinks, there's sharks in the water. Okay, I spelled 8th wrong. I spelled there wrong. I spelled dresses wrong. I spelled with wrong, bow ties wrong. I put an apostrophe in when there shouldn't have been one. I spelled fro wrong. That was only in 3 sentences. And I got 1 missing full stop and a comma in the wrong place. Okay, so I used to find spelling and punctuation hard, but I loved reading and I loved books. And when I was in year 6 at school, we were allowed to make our own picture books. So when I was making this book, I'd draw the pictures and I thought to myself, I would love to do this for a job when I'm older. And straight away I thought I won't be able to because I'm not good enough at writing or drawing pictures. Well, I was wrong, wasn't I? And I know why I was able to become a writer and an illustrator. And I want to see how many of these things you do too. So I might have been a slow writer, I might have found spelling difficult, but I loved playing. And I used to play for hours, and I particularly liked playing with these guys. Lego. Okay, I used to have little Lego towns and I would make things happen to my Lego characters. This is one I've got recently, I have to admit. But I didn't just use Lego when I played games, I mixed up and had other toys too. Now, what I'm going to show you, if you've read The Land of Roar, this is the toy that inspired Croakie, okay? Because no matter what game I was playing, this toy would come in and ruin the game by stamping on everything. Do, 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 do. It's a bit creepy, I'm warning you. Do, 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 do. It's a strange little doll. Do. Hello, children. The strangest thing about this doll is that her clothes are made of glitter sprayed on the front, but they didn't bother doing the back. Right, that was my Croakie inspiration, which is a strange thought, isn't it? So when I grew up and got to about 11 or 12, my brother stopped playing with me. My friends started talking instead of playing, and I did not want to stop playing. So I started to collect a doll's house, and I used to make things for my doll's house. This is a little bonnet, and I must have been very proud of it because look, I've kept it for over 30 years. So I used to make things for my doll's house, and that wasn't playing, it was collecting, but I did play with them, actually, if I'm honest. And I used to draw for hours, and I loved dressing up, and I loved reading, playing, drawing, dressing up, and reading. That's what made me a writer. And I wonder how many of those things you like doing too. I especially liked playing games at playtime at school. And I love hearing that some children played The Land of Roar at school. It's a very exciting thought for me. Okay, we are now on to what gave me the idea for Stink. Nearly all my stories begin with something true or real happening to me. So The Land of Roar began because when I was about your age, I used to play in the attic with my nan's folding camp bed. Dead Good Detectives came into my mind when I visited a graveyard and found out that lots of them had a skull and crossbones engraved on them. But Stink started life, because one day, just like the main character in the book, on his 11th birthday, Danny gets given a fairy door. And one day my daughter got given this fairy door for her birthday. And she stuck to the door. Now, she was a bit disappointed because it doesn't open. Okay, it's sealed shut. And one day I was in her bedroom on my own, tidying up probably. And I looked at this door and I thought, maybe it does open. Maybe I can open it. And I don't know why I thought this, because I am a grown up and I know, I've seen the back, it doesn't open. I bent down and I took my hand with this little thing and I tried to open it. And I thought, what if a door that shouldn't open opens? And that was what gave me the idea for Stink. So I'd like you to hold on to that thought, that idea that what ifs can make things happen, because what ifs are the start of so many books. If you have one of those thoughts in your head, what if a dragon landed in our playground? What if we came to school one day and our teacher had shrunk to the size of a fairy? Sorry, teachers, I don't know, that just came out of nowhere. It'd be quite exciting. I'm sure you'd still have total control over your class. What if one day you opened a fairy door and something came out? But what would it be? Now, so we can get being creative straight away, you should have a bit of paper. Well, hopefully you've got a bit of paper somewhere nearby, or if not, you can tell your teacher what you think. If I was to say to you, anything could come out of this door, anything at all, it doesn't matter how big it is, how small it is, it doesn't have to be a real thing. I would like you to just spend a couple of minutes either talking as a class or writing down on a bit of paper what you would love to come out of a fairy door, okay? Or you can add it into the chat. Okay, along with your questions. So I'm actually going to put a few of my ideas in the chat now, things I would like to come out of the fairy door. I'll have to check my spellings now. I'm going to go for a shortened version. I would love one of these to appear in my room. A hippo, but not a big hippo. I'd like it to be quite little. A little hippo. I'd really like my own hippo. Here's something else I would like to come out of this door, a snowstorm. I realise that for some of you, you do not want snow. An alien, excellent idea. Maybe an alien and a hippo. This is how I get all the ideas for my next books, by the way. I'm stealing all these. Some of you have had snow, but I live down the south. We've not really had snow this year. A kitten, a fairy, a genie, a magic dog, a unicorn, a pony. These are great ideas. Well done, Isabel. A sloth, a Bugatti, a wolf, magic seeds. Well, this is very exciting. Ooh, I'm sorry. I know I should. Oh, you guys, stop it. Too many ideas. My head's going to explode. A rag doll, food, cow, Stink. Okay. I always say that children have the best ideas, and you have just proved it to me. A jack-in-the-box, a golden dog. Okay, I'm going to stop reading them now. These are fantastic. Now, if you want to make those things happen, you can make those things happen. You could imagine it, you could draw it, you could write about it, you could play it. But for now, I would like to tell you what happens in Stink. Okay, you can keep writing down your ideas if you want, but it is story time. So are you sitting comfortably? I'm going to share my screen. I'm saying this confidently because I hope it will definitely 100% happen. Okay, now hopefully you can now see a lovely picture of Stink lying on a load of sweets. When I drew those sweets, I had to buy a lot of sweets to draw, and then I had to eat them. The things I do. Okay, so just a bit of background story. Danny Todd, the boy on the front, it's his birthday. And for his birthday, he gets given not one, but two rats, Tony and Noah. He also gets given some brush pens, and these are really important because he loves drawing comics. He gets given £20 from his nan. He gets given some hand grips because he wants to make his hands strong before he starts secondary school. And he gets given from his little sister Sophie a fairy door. And I'm going to tell you, I'm afraid to say, he's not very grateful about this fairy door. In fact, he just thinks it's something to stick to the wall. He can't really see much point to it, but he doesn't even get the chance to look at it because suddenly his sister snatches it out of his hands and runs out of the room with it. Okay, I'm going to, oh, there's a picture of one of Danny's cartoons. He likes to draw with his brush pens. And actually, I put some of Danny's cartoons at the back of the book, and you'll find them there at the back with some blank pages for you to do your own cartoons. And I've also put these on my website. So if you want to have a go at drawing some cartoons in your class, you could get the blank frames from there. Okay, so chapter 2, Sophie and the glue. I was using my new powerfully strong fists to carry Tony and Noah's cage into my bedroom when I discovered Sophie had been on a sticking spree with super glue in my room. She had stuck a Disney prince to the bottom of my bedside table, 3 Cocoa Pops and 5 Cheerios to my wall, a ball of stuff to my bed, a plastic cow to my bed, 3 Lego bricks on the window, and a piece of toast on my pillow. And she'd stuck the fairy door to the wall. Not only had she stuck it to the wall, she'd done it badly. She hadn't even fled the scene of the crime. She was crouched down next to the fairy door and whispering into the little letterbox. "Hello, fairy, are you in there?" I was so angry that I did something mean. I said, "Soph, you're doing it all wrong." "Why?" she said. "Because every fairy door has a real fairy behind it waiting to come out, but you have to do something special to set them free." "I don't believe you, Danny, you're tricking me," said Sophie. "I promise you, Sophie, there is a lovely fairy behind that door. She's gorgeous and she smells of sweets, and I'm going to get her to come out and meet you." "Oh, thank you, Danny, thank you, thank you, thank you. Do it now, please. Thank you." And this is what happened. I did a special ritual to summon the fairy. Now, you might have seen I've put a little blue square over number 4. I'm afraid I've had to censor it. You'll have to read the book if you want to know what that one is. But from doing a few school visits, I've discovered that's one best to keep secret. How to summon a fairy. 1, slap your cheeks. 2, prod your sister's nose. 3, spin round 3 times. 4, do the secret thing. 5, knock on the fairy door. 6, say the magic rhyme. Now, if you like, you can all say the magic rhyme with me, and I might even hear you up in Scotland. Okay, I'll say it and I'll pause. "Oh fairy, oh fairy. Oh fairy who eats jam. Step through the door and meet a boy called Dan." Oh, excellent. I heard you in Dorset. I heard you in Shropshire. I heard you in Scotland. Amazing. Whoa, spoiler alert, I think I jumped ahead. I was so excited. I know it was a rubbish rhyme, but I was making up on the spot. Sophie got so excited, she made her hands go like starfish and she started panting like our dog Frida. She looked so funny, I started laughing. And that's when the fairy door flew off the wall and hit me in the face. I fell to the ground, clutching my nose. And when I opened my eyes, I saw this. You've already seen it. That's right, a real live fairy had come out of the fairy door, was standing in my bedroom surrounded by smoke and stars, and she looked nothing like the fairy on the box. Now, in case you're worried that the fairy's got something rude written on her boiler suit, don't worry, it's not rude. Stink works for the Fairy Assistance Response Team. It's a very serious organisation, and that's why she's got the Fairy Assistance Response Team initials embroidered on her boiler suit. Suddenly, the smoke and stars were sucked through the hole in the wall. Then the fairy picked up the door and used her wand to screw it back into place. Then she turned and ran towards me and half flew, half scrabbled up my body until she was fluttering in front of my face. "I belong to you, boy," she said, prodding me in the forehead with her wand. "You are my master and I will stay with you until you die." But, I don't want you," I shouted. Actually, I'm going to change my stink voice. I don't think I committed to it fully then. "I belong to you, boy," she said, poking me on the forehead. "You are my master and I will stay with you until you die." "But I don't want you," I said. "Not true. You said I was gorgeous and smelled of sweets." "That's sarcastic," I whimpered. "Tough," she said. "If you didn't want me, you shouldn't have called me out of fairyland using ancient human-y fairy sacred ritual and done all those magic words, should you?" "But I made them all up," I said, and then I started to cry because for some reason the fairy decided to jab her wand into my nose again and again. For the record, Sophie wasn't looking scared or crying. Oh no, she was gazing at the fairy with a look of total love on her face. At this point, I decided to do what I always do when I'm scared or need something. "Mom!" I screamed. Quick as a flash, the fairy whipped out her wand and shouted, "Red." Stars exploded. I tasted strawberry laces and then my lips glued together. Next, the fairy zoomed close to my eyes and hissed, "Do anything else, boy, and I'll bite you." So I ran towards the door and she bit me. What happens next? Okay, well, you'll have to read the book to find out. That was just a little taste of what happens in Stink. I am going to tell you that Stink reveals to Danny that she works for the Fairy Assistance Response Team and she will earn 100 nuggets for every good deed she helps him do. And she really needs these nuggets because look at her wings. They're rubbish. They're falling apart. So Danny agrees to help her do a good deed to get her to go away. Now, earlier, you were giving me your ideas for what's behind the door. And I just wanted to show you something that's behind this door here. Okay, I had a peek earlier. That's how I know it's a little letter from Stink. Okay, let me take it out. It's very small. Now, if you would like to see this letter bigger, I have put this on my website too, and I'm going to show it to you in a minute. I'm going to open it for you. It's actually sealed with wax with an F in it. Can you see? Attention to detail there. Okay, let me open the letter. I love this. It's like an, ooh, it really is done up well. We'll just shake the wax off my keyboard. Okay, there we go. I'm going to take the tiny letter out. I'm going to open the tiny letter. I'm going to show it to you. Here we are. Here is the tiny letter. It's really too small to read, isn't it? It's actually just about the right size for my eyes to read, but I am going to share my screen with you because I did think ahead and I thought I'd better show you what it looks like. Okay. This is what Stink says in her letter. This is really a challenge to you. Dear childrens, help! I need nuggets for a new wand. Mine is rubbish. I work for the Fairy Assistance Response Team and they give me 100 nuggets for every good deed I do. Can you think of a good deed I could do at your school? Maybe you want a pet dragon or pencils made of sweets or cheesy chips every day. It could be anything at all. So that's Stink's first question to you. Now, you don't have to do it now because in a minute we're going to do a draw along, but keep it in your head. What good deed could Stink help you do at your school? The second question, is there something I can get from fairyland to help us do the good deed, like a dragon or an elf or a wizard or something? You can get anything out of that door, a pony, a fox, a dragon, a witch, anything can come and help you do the good deed, but what would you choose? Finally, also, there's something you should know. When I'm around, bad stuff happens. Is there anything that could go wrong when we're doing our good deed? This is like Stink's risk assessment. So what could go wrong? Now, books have a bit of drama in them, and this is me asking you, can you think of something dramatic that you could put in your story? And then finally, this is the title. Last of all, what should we call our good deed mission? Thanks for helping me, childrens, from Stink. Okay, that letter is there. And so I'll have to send it to one of you, my actual letter. That'd be quite nice, wouldn't it? So I would love it if you guys would have a go at answering those questions and having your own little mystery for Stink. Now, have you got your pens and paper ready? Because we're going to have a Stinky draw along. Sweets at lunchtime, good idea. Pick a mix every day. Now, there's probably a really high-tech way of doing this, but I haven't learned what it is. So we're going to draw Stink together, and I'm just going to do it by holding up one of my sketchbooks and drawing on here. I love drawing Stink. She's a lot of fun. Have you got your paper ready? Stink's got big hair, so it's probably best this way around. Teachers, teaching assistants, everyone can have a go. We ready? First thing we need to do is draw Stink's eyes. Stink has got round eyes like a bush baby. Okay. There are Stink's round eyes, and I'm going to put next to them, and where you put the pupils will depend. If you put them up here, she'll look a bit dreamy at the top of her head. Down here, she'll look a bit naughty. The side, sneaky. Right in the middle, starey. I'm going to do starey eyes. Very starey, okay. And now, because I always forget to do them, I'm going to put the eyebrows in. I bet one of you will be able to find a picture of Stink in my book with no eyebrows, because I forget to do them all the time. Now, the next thing we're going to do is a semicircle, like a bowl, and it will start right in the middle of her eyes and go around like so. Okay, that's Stink's face. My Stink has got a slightly wonky face. Imagine she's being blown by the wind like that. Her nose is just a little sausage. You've got some choices for the mouth. Okay, classic stink mouth is this little one like this, like a sausage with lines in it. Or you could do a big cheesy grin or a scream. I love drawing the scream with the tongue sticking out. So I'm going to do that one now. That's the tongue. It's quite challenging, this one. That's the big screamy mouth. Okay, and it goes like that. And then we need to colour it in. I know colouring in takes quite a bit of time, so I might just do some shading now. But I probably shouldn't have started the big screamy mouth without more time. Oh, I forgot to give her teeth. Never mind. Where's my teeth? Thinks Stink. Now her ears are 2 little semicircles on the side of her head. And to do her massive hair, you need to go up to the top of your page and do a point. Okay. And then do 2 little lines below her ears, one there and one there. And we're going to go on a journey, a bumpy journey from here up to the point. It's like clouds or a sheep or an ice cream. There's one side of her hair and then down again on the other side. Whee! Went off my page. Now at the moment she hasn't got fringe. I'm a big fan of the fringe, so let's put a fringe in. It's another bumpy journey from the ear to the ear, and then add a couple more upside down seagulls to make it look bumpy. Classic Stink. There we go. I hope maybe I'll get to see some of your stinks later if your teachers are able to share them with me. Some children like to add things in Stink's hair. I've had rats before. I know it doesn't quite make sense because Stink is a fairy, so you just have to imagine this is a really, really small rat in here. There's a little rat in her hair. Some people like to add spiders, maybe put a spider's web. You might like to do, something I really like drawing is these lines, which make it look like they're panicking and going, ah. This is how when I was a teacher, I used to feel on a Friday at lunchtime. No. Okay, and if you want to draw the rest of Stink, why not? Have a go. She always wears a collar. I kind of wish I hadn't given her collared clothes because it's quite tricky. How am I doing for time? Whoa, I am bang on. Okay, here's Stink. I am going to give her her crest. She does work for the Fairy Assistance Response Team. Very serious organisation, as I mentioned before. And there we go. And hopefully she'll help me earn some nuggets. Put my Stink down for the time being. Now, last of all, let me check I've not missed anything out. So I want to have time. You've asked me so many amazing questions. I want to show you one last thing. Now, I said that writing a book was my dream, okay? And I thought I couldn't do it. And in a way, I didn't try to do it for a long time. I thought it wasn't good enough. I want to show you some of my Stink pictures to show you that the more you practice doing something, the better you get. Okay, so get fixed in your head. This is what Stink looks like, all right? Here is one of my first pictures of Stink that I drew. There she is. Here is another one I drew. Here's another Stink coming up. She was much smaller then. Okay. This is a really scary Stink. Prepare yourself. Here is another one. But look at the different hairstyles I tried out for her. I quite like the hairstyle here. Quite like that one. I gave this hairstyle to Danny's sister Sophie in the end. So sometimes you have to practice doing things lots and lots of times to get doing it. Oh, one of the Stink drawings looked a bit like Croakie. You're not the only person who said that. Somebody else said that just today. In fact, I think somewhere in my sketchbook I have got, oh look, here's lots of pictures of Sophie that I drew. I was trying to decide what Sophie would look like, giving her different hairstyles. I wonder if any of you have got sketchbooks like this. Grumpy Sophie, quite like that one. Have a flick through. There's other things in here which are a bit more serious, like this is where I was trying to decide the names for the town in this book. I wrote them all out here on this bit of paper. You have to do a lot of things till you get it right. Now, I think I'm ready to answer questions. Is that okay, my big bosses? I just saw Sarah flicker then.
I know, sorry, I flickered on and off, just teasing you with my presence. Yes, absolutely. We've got so many questions that I think we should probably kick off with and watching. That was so brilliant. I'm just laughing at the fact that you didn't give your stink teeth. How is she going to do her biting?
I know. And the best bit to draw, we had a bit of a discussion, didn't we, Sarah, with the public, where the stink should have teeth on the front cover. Some people thought it was scary, but I was really keen for teeth.
Well, especially because she is a bit bitey, and that, which is not a good thing to do, children.
But luckily she does bite, but she's tiny, so imagine you're bitten by an ant. You know, you
exactly.
can barely feel it.
Exactly.
My goodness, look at these questions.
There's so many questions. Okay, I'm just gonna have to pick at random.
Can I answer one? Somebody said, "Who is Croakie?"
I know.
Whoa, okay, Croakie. Some of you will know who Croakie is. He's not somebody you want to meet in a dark alleyway.
He's quite spooky, Croakie.
He is. I'll show you a picture of Croakie. Here's Croakie.
Oh,
he's the villain.
I feel like some of your early sketches, though. It's really interesting seeing the development of how they come along, isn't it?
They are. Are you going to choose?
I'm going to kick off. I'm going to go in. Okay, so this is quite a lot. There's lots of questions. So, this is from Lauren Brooke, might be Mrs. Brooke or Miss Brooke. How many books have you written? How many books have you written?
I have actually don't know. Over 15. Over 15.
A lot.
I've written lots of books to learn to read with. Big books like this. I've written 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 published big books.
Yeah.
No, 12. I don't know.
A lot, a number.
Yeah, around 11 or 12
books.
Yeah,
okay, this one is from Ashley Kersley, maybe Mr. or Miss Kersley, to everyone. Which book is your favourite? That's like picking a favourite child. Is that,
depends which one's annoying me the most at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, my favourite book, dearie me, that is really hard. In some ways, maybe the second Land of Raw book, Return to Raw, because things in it that happened, some of the characters very close things that happened to me, and it's pretty exciting. I think maybe at the moment Stink is my favorite, because I don't know if there's something you've wanted to do all your life and you finally do it. I never dreamt I could draw these pictures in the book. Sometimes I'd come across these pictures and I'd have told myself what I'd have to draw, and I'd think, I can't draw that, and I'd have a go, and I can draw it. I'm going to show you the one I thought I couldn't draw. I had to draw a sort of action scene in the sea with a troll and lots of children on a raft and a lady's bottom. I thought I couldn't draw it, and I did. So
you did. You overcame. That's the thing. You've got to keep on trying, haven't you? There are so many questions. That's a favourite one. We've done that one. All our pupils love the Land of Raw, says from the Ingham Primary School, which is.
Can I sneak one in? I've seen.
Yes, of course you can. Yeah. Go for it.
Did it take you long to pluck up the courage to write and publish a book? Yes.
It's a very good question.
It took me from when I wanted to do it. So I wanted to do it for real when I was about year 6. That's when I thought I want to do it. And then I would have been about, so I was about 10 or 11 there, so 10. And then it didn't happen for another nearly 20 years. So when I began writing my first book, which is a book for teenagers about dancing, from when I began writing it to getting it published, it took me 6 or 7 years. And lots of times I thought it's not good enough, and I put it away, and I thought I can't do it. I've given up lots of times, but you know what? Sometimes you just got to keep on going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that leads us nicely into another question, which is from Chloe Hendy, which is how many times do you have to edit and rewrite a story before it gets published? And that's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because I think sometimes it's quite easy to think that you write a story and then they send it in to someone like me who's an editor, and then it gets published sort of right away. But that is not the case, is it?
Not at all, no. So what happens? Sarah's like my teacher. So I will write the book, and even when I write it myself, I'll edit it a lot of times. So, for example, when I first wrote The Land of Raw, I actually didn't use the first 10,000 words. I deleted them all. I didn't delete them. I could never do that. I hid them somewhere else. The only line I used was Arthur chasing Rose up the stairs, shouting, "You look like me, you look like me." So I have to edit it. I would say, I lose count. Sometimes I can spend 4 hours writing a paragraph. Sometimes I write 1,000 words in a day. And then Sarah gets the book and she sends it back to me with notes. So sometimes they're little things like, oh, I think you could add a bit more drama or tension to this scene, or mention what the weather's like. I like those. Sometimes she sends me things like, I'm not sure we need this character.
That's...
And I have to, now the thing is, Sarah's nearly always right. It's really annoying. So I don't know if you get things from your teacher telling you to do things, and for a while you're a bit cross. So when Sarah sends me, what I find is I'm a bit cross for nearly 24 hours, and then the next morning I wake up and I think, oh, Sarah's right. I'm gonna have to do it.
It's often a case when you sort of get feedback is, and or maybe lots of the children listening will know this as well, is that you do have to have a bit of time to think about it, don't you? Because it's not a criticism, it's more of a suggestion. I always think, but it can take a long time, can't it, to do? But we've got so we need to crack on.
I'm trying to grab one before it disappears.
Grab one.
Charlie says, how many pictures are in your book?
Oh yes,
Charlie, flipping loads. Look
and
at
another question actually, which leads on from that, is someone has asked, I'm going to try and find it, but which was your favourite picture
right.
Which was your favourite one to draw? Do you have a favourite one?
I tell you what, I do have a favourite one. I think my favourite one is, it's a really simple one, but I love drawing foxes.
That's a good fox.
Somebody else has asked how my dog Maggie is. Am I allowed to show
there's quite a few questions about dogs and pets, actually. There's a couple of questions have been, what do you have a pet? Which is, yes, you do have a dog. And then someone has asked how your dog is. So how is...
Well, I can go and get her and show everyone in a sec if you want. But I noticed somebody said, was Stink the first name choice for the book? Well, actually, almost, but there is actually a full stop in Stink's name. Her name is S. Tink. But she won't tell Danny what her name is. She refuses to tell him, so she calls him her. He calls her Stink. Would I write a book with someone else illustrating? Well, I have. Yes. This book was illustrated by Ben Mantle, and this book is illustrated by Chloe Dominique, who are both amazing illustrators. I think that it would have been hard to get somebody else to illustrate this book because I wanted there to be so many pictures, and I had such a clear idea of what they were like in there.
Good, a very specific question, but I like that. Has the book got more than 200 pages? Now, I think I should probably know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think it's, maybe I should choose.
Do you know what? Maybe not.
Just about 200 pages.
It's just about 200 pages because they stopped printing them. I think it's just a really funny picture at the back.
Very good question. I like that. That's a very specific question. Are any of the books inspired by your family? That's Vicky Shirtlift to us all.
Yes, so this character here is a little bit inspired by my daughter here in Z Detectives. I think Stink's quite like my mum. My mum is quite wild, unpredictable. She's got blonde hair and she's quite small, and she used to embarrass me a lot when I was little. She was a head teacher, can you believe it? And she once came to pick me up from secondary school wearing a gorilla mask with a ball gown on because she thought it'd be funny. Was it funny? Only funny for her, I have to say. I have actually put a couple of my family in my book. So the mare is, that's a picture of my mum just there. Oh, that's a great Turned her into the mare. She'd love that. And I also put my daughters, Nell and Flora, into this picture here. So this is that's Flora and that one's Nell. So I put little pictures in there. This is a really good question from Charlie, care of Jenny Adcock, and it is, if you could be in any of your books, which one would it be? Land of Raw. I'd 100% be in Land of Raw because... Whoa, I mean, good question, but I'd love to visit the Land of Raw. They've got waterfalls you can jump off, streams. Yeah. They've got lagoons, they've got merwitches, you can fly dragons. The only food you can eat there tends to be apples that tastes of sweets, honey on toast, and rocky road. So, I mean, it gets sickly in the end, wouldn't it? But, yes, it would, but you're right. That is a good, that's a good. Oh, I like Preston's question. Would like to know if you have a book you like the least. I know, I was going to, well, Preston. That's tricky. I love them all. I'd say, I don't think you'd ever write a book that you didn't like because it takes so long. Each one takes me nearly a year to write. So you're not going to, it's a bit unlucky. There are some books that are harder to write than others. And actually my favourite one, I mentioned, I like Return to Raw. That was very hard to write because it's got quite a complicated sort of like treasure hunt in the middle of it. But I do like them all. That's a good thing, isn't it? A couple of people have asked, who are your favourite authors? Which authors are you inspired by? Well, I was really inspired to, I like writers. I really love writers who write books that are page turners, children. I really love, so all the Enid Blyton books I used to love. I really like Jacqueline Wilson's books. I love Roald Dahl's books. I mean, I know I'm saying some quite well-known people here, but I think the reason I like, for example, Jacqueline Wilson's books so much is because she writes books, and I think she only really worries about children. She thinks, what are children going to want to read in this book? And I think that's really important. I have to try and remind myself sometimes that I'm just writing for children and not grown-ups.
This is a very good question. What is the first book you can ever remember reading? That's from Sarah Hilton from 3SH class.
Oh, well, the first book I remember reading, I had a book of 500 poems and stories, and this is the first book I remember reading on my own. I was very excited, and there was a story about two girls who go to the shop and they buy a comic and some chocolate. I read it again and again. That's all I needed. And I'm still pretty into chocolates and comics, aren't I?
Exactly.
So maybe it had quite an impact on me.
There's a question here that I can answer, which is, are there going to be any more stink books? And I think we can say that there is going to be at least another stink book. I mean, and also that links into a question, someone asking, what are you writing at the moment, which could well be.
Well, Sarah wants me to write my next stink book very quickly.
And a very good schedule, everyone. Schedule's very important.
Yeah, so I am writing the next stink book, and oh my goodness, I'm so excited about it. So
very fun.
The second stink book begins when Danny starts secondary school, and it involves, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but it involves a wizard.
It's
a very powerful wizard. Getting a job at his secondary school.
And one of the earlier questions, which I was going to say as well, is someone asked, there's going to be another Dead Good Detectives book, and there absolutely is. In fact, Jen has just sent in her final draft of that book, which is the final version that we use when we get all the pictures drawn and everything. So yes, that will be out later this year. So there's just lots of things to look forward to. I think we've probably got time for one more question. What do you think? Do you want to try and
I choose?
Let's have a look. Yeah, you can choose.
Well, somebody said, I saw one, it went past, and it said, what advice would I give somebody who wants to write a book? So when you write a book, you basically need to have a story in your head. So anything you can do that makes your imagination grow is going to help you write a book. There are some things that make your imagination grow, and there are some things I don't think do very much, but they're still very tempting to do. I love watching telly, but I know that it doesn't make my imagination grow quite as much as reading and drawing. So obviously I watch telly, but I think that reading, drawing, but most of all playing is the most important thing you do. And say you do want to write something down. I would love it if some of you had a go at writing a stink story in your school, for example, or a stink cartoon. But just do the bits that are fun. It's really important, because actually writing is quite tiring. It makes your hand ache. So if you want to write a story about maybe a dragon going off on an adventure with a dragon, why don't you just jump straight to the moment when you're flying off on the dragon? Don't worry about getting out of bed. Start with the dragon.
Start with a really exciting bit, and then
can I get my dog quickly?
Yeah, go get your dog quickly. Get your dog quickly. Tell you what, while Jan's getting her dog, I can just tell you some of the housekeeping, which is just to say thank you all so much for coming. And we've got some really exciting book club events coming up later as well in next term. So in the summer term, we've got Joe Lindley, who's the author of Hello Summer, on the 15th of June, and Ian Mark, who's the author of The Wonderful Monster Hunting for Beginners, on the 29th of June. And there's a feedback form, which we'll put in the chat if you'd like to fill that out. And yeah, there's a discount code. Thank you everyone for coming, etc., etc. Here's the dog. I'm not going to talk anymore. Look. Oh, look.
Here's the dog's tail poking up.
Elegant.
She's fast asleep, so I've had to wake her up. It was quite sleepy. Like
she looks quite startled, but
she really likes sitting on my lap. So sometimes I type with her on my lap.
Is she ever going to read one of your books? That's the question. Can we bring her into the next day?
Well, look.
She's got a little. She looks like it's reading the book now, which I'm really liking.
There's her picture.
Oh, there she is.
Bark, bark, bark. Oh, thank you everybody for your messages.
Oh yes, thank you everyone so much for coming.
And that's so lovely. I love writing the books for you. Nothing makes me happier than knowing that the books I've written, the pictures I've drawn have made you lot happy. It's the best feeling in the world. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Jenny, and thank you all so much for joining us. It's been a
Thank
lot of
you.
fun. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.